It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy and Rene are here. Serenity, Caldwell, too. We'll talk about the new book about Steve Jobs. Early reviews coming in. Also, what's it going to be like to buy an Apple Watch? We've got more details, thanks to Mark Gurman at 9 to 5 Mac. And has Apple banned antiviruses from the App Store? We'll find out next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
It's time for Twit's annual audience survey, and we want to hear from you. Please visit twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. It only takes a few minutes, and your anonymous feedback will help us make Twit even better. We thank you so much for your continued support. Twit.tv/survey. This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 447, recorded Tuesday, March 24th, 2015. Pantry Moths. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/MacBreak and enter the promo code MacBreak. And by LegalZoom. It's National Start Your Business Month at LegalZoom, and the best time to create the business you've always dreamed of. LegalZoom's not a law firm, but they can connect you with an independent attorney. Visit LegalZoom.com and use the offer code MBW in the referral box to save more. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover... Why am I sounding like Bullwinkle all of a sudden? We cover the latest Apple news. Andy Ihnatko is here from the Chicago Sun-Times. Hello, Andrew.
We're doing Bullwinkle. Can I be like the announcer from Frostbite Falls?
Can you do that voice?
I can if I distance myself from the microphone.
I love that voice.
When last we turned in,
Yes.
Apple announced a brand new wristwatch costing $10,000. Bullwinkle thinks he can raise the money for the Sport Edition.
I don't know, Rocky.
Right,
it looks like these are made of gold.
Also with us, Rene Ritchie.
There's no use case for a smartwatch yet.
Oh, no! Bullwinkle, what have you done? I don't know who that is. Also here, Rene Ritchie from highmore.com. I'm so sorry.
Hi, everyone. I can do a high voice, too.
Hi, Rock. Oh, it's Natasha. Hello.
With Moose and Squirrel.
Serenity Caldwell from highmore.com. Hello, Moose and Squirrel.
I am bad at Russian accents.
Yes. No, you're good.
Хорошо.
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 So, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Serenity. How's things?
Things are good.
I had to do math in my head. It was only 2 weeks ago that you were here and Rene was here and you were here, and we were talking about the Apple Watch.
It's true.
Yep.
And one of the reasons that's germane is the Apple Watch goes on sale, pre-order, April 10th, which is only about 2 weeks away, 2 or 3 weeks away. And then April 24th, we can actually strap one on, so to speak. That was 6 weeks. That's a long time for Apple.
Yep.
Between announcement and availability. Is that the longest ever?
Longest I can remember.
Yeah.
In terms of
wait a minute, no.
If we don't count like the iPad being announced and then a few months.
Yeah, I've had an iPhone.
Yeah, the iPhone.
The original iPhone was 6 months, right, or something.
And then they announced the launch date, and then it was a few more weeks.
Yeah.
I think the precedent is more like the September event where they said, okay, well now obviously we have to be able to let these out into the world so people can actually use and test them,
Right.
and plus we have to file the design. We're not going to announce when it's going to be available apart from a time frame. So this is probably unprecedented in the sense that we're saying we've got a firm launch date, but you've got a couple of months to. We realize you probably are going to have to roll some pennies to get that $10,000. So
Right.
start heading down to the coin counter machine at the supermarket. Don't put the $10,000 in pennies in all at once.
And Apple TV was a little bit similar because it was shown off the fall before as iTV, and then during the original iPhone event, they showed it off again as Apple TV, which was several months later.
Interesting.
So they do these teases sometimes.
Yeah.
New products are hard, Leo.
New products are tough. What should we talk about? Let's talk about the Becoming Steve Jobs. Have you all read it now?
I'm halfway through.
In the process. Yeah.
I am. I got my hardcover yesterday, and I read about a quarter of it while I was donating like blood platelets.
Oh,
yesterday.
nice. Good man.
And then like I was reading for so long, I checked my email and said, "Oh, your Kindle edition that you bought pre-ordered a month ago has arrived." Okay, so now I can put down the book and go into Kindle. So I'm about halfway through.
Yeah, that's how I've been reading it as well.
He has just taken Next off the rails, and bad things are happening.
So I've only read kind of the forward. I haven't had a lot of time to read it. I was reading it with my breakfast cereal this morning. The guy who wrote it, what is it, Brent Schnedler? That's not his name. BS is his initials. That's the only. Actually, two people wrote it, but Brent was a reporter for the Wall Street Journal when he first met Steve Jobs in 1986. So he claims, as a result of many interviews, 25-year friendship probably isn't the right word. Acquaintance with Steve Jobs.
Observance.
Observance.
And one of the important things to note is that he started his journalistic relationship with him well before like the big clampdown on press really started with Steve. He had access that no one would have been granted to him in later dates, right. Like being able to hang out, being able to see parts of his daily routine that wouldn't be shown. He came in when he was trying to get Next off the ground, and he writes about how Esquire followed him around for an entire week, pretty much 24/7, and it's a sign of how important it was to Steve that Next get good publicity and be launched as an equal to Apple almost out of the gate, that he gave so many members of the press this kind of access. So it's very, very interesting, and it's probably my favorite Steve Jobs book so far.
Interesting, because some have cast this as the anti-Walter Isaacson biography, that this one was supported by Jobs' friends and is more truthful about Jobs. Is that...
They've had a lot of smart things said about the Isaacson book, and I think some of the most apt was John Syracuse and John Gruber when they talked about it and said that Isaacson had all the access, but he didn't have the insight. He didn't write the book that a lot of us who followed Apple really wanted to write. The things he focused on weren't the things we wanted to know about Steve Jobs, like like all the Next era things and how he designed products and how he worked on it. And this book seems to focus on those things. This seems like the Steve Jobs book for people who were fascinated by Steve Jobs as a technologist and as a product guy.
Yeah.
Early on, I think that he makes a really good point, which is that I'm sorry, I should say a point that I agreed with wholeheartedly, which is the most interesting portion of his life to an outsider would be the period between Next and his return to Apple, because the Steve Jobs who led Next to the place where Next wound up is clearly not the same Steve Jobs that took Apple from the ashes and returned it to primacy. So what happened? There's so much about. I think the more you read about the man, the more you realize that people it seems as though a lot of writers seem to know here is what the guy was like, as though he didn't change through 20 or 30 years of his life, from the time he's founded Apple through the end of his life, when actually every person is an evolving person, and they're capable of doing things later in life they were incapable of doing earlier, that there are faults that they have identified and corrected as they go. And again, I'm barely halfway through it, but I'm very, very pleased to see that the author seems to have an idea of what the progression is like, and a broader perspective, not only on Apple, but of the entire industry. So he understands things, I think, in context. I don't think the Isaacson book was bad. I think it was necessary for what it was. But my one big complaint about it was that I thought it lacked that sort of broad perspective and the sort of informed nature of here's what the technology world is like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of dichotomy there, because I think that in general, the book, from what little I've read of it, feels much more personal than the Isaacson book does. But it does touch on sort of those grand subjects and those grand topics. So it's, I don't know, it feels a lot more like you're being invited into Steve's hearth, so to speak, and hearing, basically like sitting around and shooting the dish, as opposed to sitting and reading an academic book about listening to a lecture about the life and times of Steve Jobs.
Is it? But sometimes reporters will do that artificially. Is it genuine that he is in fact sitting around with Steve Jobs? Do you sense that as is it a trope of the book, or is it actually true? I don't get the sense.
I think whether or not Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's entirely false, but whether or not it's whether or not there are stretches of the truth in terms of the way that they crafted the narrative, I think it just feels very genuine. Whether or not like 100% of the crafting was genuine, it feels genuine, and it's again, I've only read the first chapter or two, so I can't comment on the entire book quite yet, but I'm really. And it feels very natural to me.
It's Brent deserves his real name. Brent Schlender and Rick Tetzelli. And in the preface, they say, even though we both wrote this book and researched it over many years, we're going to use the first person pronoun, I, throughout. And when it is used, it refers to Brent, right?
Yeah, it works really well. And the thing I like best about this, at least so far from the parts that I've read, is that sometimes you feel like the author is trying to push a narrative like Steve Jobs was a jerk or Steve Jobs was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And this really seems like it presents the anecdotes and it doesn't sugarcoat them. You can choose to interpret them, and they sort of give some rationale about why he might not have been, very nice in this situation, or why he might have been generous in this situation. But it feels more like I can sort of take from it what I want rather than a certain angles being shoved right at me.
Yeah, I like that. Sometimes it seems as though things that he's read in other biographies have sort of like stuck in his craw, or the collective his. There's a section that actually highlighted that some writers have tried to cast Steve's obsessiveness and his hunger for the spotlight and success as a Freudian attempt to bring down the birth parents who, quote, rejected him by letting him be adopted. It always struck me, however, that at his childish worst, Steve was really nothing more than a spoiled brat. There are lots of stuff like that.
Okay,
not like mean stuff. I'm talking about here's
it's not hagiography. That's a good sign.
But it also takes a time to point out that you hear like half of the story of how he yelled at these people and then walked out. He has the other half of the story where someone chased him out there and found him like crying in his car. And he decided, I've screwed that up so badly. Go, come on, Steve, come back to me. No, I'll have to come back in to apologize abjectly, but then I have to leave again because, oh my God, I screwed that up so badly. So that's the sort of stuff that even early on the book really makes you want to see what else these guys have to say.
So it sounds like all three of you recommend it. This is not approved by Apple.
No, but Tim Cook and several other the Apple executives and Lorraine Powell Jobs were interviewed for the book. He said they declined it first, but he persevered and he managed to get a lot of them on board towards the end.
It's approved in the sense that he had cooperation, but then so did Walter Isaacson. In fact, Isaacson had the most important cooperation, that of Steve Jobs himself.
Which is why it's an important book. I mean, even if there are holes in it, and I'm not qualified to say what those holes really are. The fact that here are the stories that Steve Jobs wanted to tell at the end of his life, even that for its strengths, for its omissions, that is a significant and important part of the story.
And the anecdotes you refer to, it feels like at this point we've heard them all. Is there new stuff so far? I know none of you have read it all. Yes, there is. Okay, good.
Plenty.
Good.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah, and I think part of what makes it so strong is that if there is a story you've heard a million times, like how Steve might have screwed Woz out of some money for developing Breakout, what is like a whole chapter in some other books is just a couple of sentences here because
they know you know
it. He takes the details that are important for the narrative, but assumes that okay, I think you've heard of this before.
Right. All right. Can't wait to read it. Again, it just came. The reason we're all at Twitter is because it just came out this morning officially, although I see some of you have received a copy earlier. The name of the book is Becoming Steve Jobs. You know what I love? Right from the start, that's not the photo of Steve Jobs everybody knows. They probably could have used, a more iconic photo, but I think using this was really good because it almost says, look, this is about the young Steve Jobs and a Steve Jobs you might not have seen.
Actually, it kind of looks like the transition because you've got like the hippie flannel shirt, but he's also got the iconic turtleneck underneath.
He does have a turtleneck,
as though he's bursting out of his chrysalis into the modern Steve.
And to answer
and
to answer Reverb Mike's question in the chat room, no, Steve doesn't wear deodorant in this book either. Brent Schlender is the author, and Rick Tetzelli. It's published by Crown. It is available now. Is it available on iBooks? That would be telling. Yes. Or in an Apple store, it is.
Yeah, bought it at midnight from iBooks.
All right,
I got my Kindle. Like
they did a little highlight on it.
Good.
Yep.
So that tells you that even though it's not, and I also love it that it's not hagiography. It's not fulsomely praiseful of Jobs, but it sounds like it's. If they said he was a spoiled brat, that's that's a
Well,
good
I mean,
sign.
this is part, but it's part of the story. I think he underscores that you really can't reduce an entire man who lived for 60 years into just a cartoon character. I've always thought that this must be something that's quite painful for people who were his actual friends and his family, that there are people who have to tell like a reality story, like a reality show where you get these people and then they're doing what they're doing, but you have to cast one of them as the hero, one of them as the villain, the other person as the wise person, the other person as the fool. And so you can create this narrative where, well, I want to cast Steve Jobs as this brilliant genius that, yes, he had his faults, but oh my God, he smoked the ground with his magic staff, and up from there, all by himself rose the iPhone. And there are people who have to simply say, oh yeah, he was just such a jerk, and he was mean-spirited, and he was full of himself. And I think anything you want to say about any individual, you could say is true to one extent or another, but that's just like one pixel in a larger picture, and you have to really see the whole picture.
Can't wait to read this, actually. Looks
Also
really
available
good.
on Audible.
It is. Oh, good. I don't
Audible
have to
Smart
read it. I can listen. I will immediately. I did buy the Kindle version of it, but I will immediately get the Audible version. Thank you. We're going to take a break. When we come back, of course, there's lots to talk about. Apple has really started I think it's pretty obvious, the PR drumbeat for the Apple Watch, even down to the point where if you ask Siri, let me try this here. What are you doing?
Just doing a little traveling at the speed of light. It's fun, although time gets a bit sluggish in the outer galaxies.
Oh. Yeah, but what you doing?
I'm learning some new tricks.
What are you doing?
I was just chatting with the Apple Metallurgy team about the durability of Ice 9.
The Metallurgy team? What are you doing?
I'm helping round up jellyfish for the Apple Watch. Ouch.
Jellyfish? Oh, yeah, because a little...
The animated time fit, yeah.
What you doing?
I'm eagerly awaiting the arrival of Apple Watch.
There's a lot of Apple Watch pros in there all of a sudden. It's just the beginning of the PR drumbeat. We've got a video and lots more coming up in just a little bit. Rene, Ritchie, and Serenity Caldwell from iMore are here. Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times. Our show brought to you by my mattress. Why not? Those great folks at Casper. One thing that unites all of our advertisers is all of them have found new ways to do business thanks to technology, thanks to the internet. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses made in the U.S. with high technology for a fraction of the cost. And they're really changing the mattress industry because by eliminating showrooms and resellers, they save you money. Now, you might say, well, but what good is that? I need to lie on this thing. Well, Casper knows, and I think you probably know, and I know for sure because I did it, going to a showroom and lying on it for 5 minutes is not the best way to buy a mattress. I ended up buying a mattress that was really uncomfortable. We actually spent a lot of money on that mattress. Thank goodness for Casper. There's my Casper for those of you watching on video. It comes in a small box. That's a queen-size mattress in that box. When you open it up, it comes out and goes, and suddenly you have this beautiful, comfy mattress. Better than that, you have 100 days to try it. 100 days. So shipping is free. They get it to you. They'll take it back. It's completely risk-free. You need to sleep on this mattress for as long as 3 months. And then if you decide you don't want it, they'll take it back. Absolutely no questions asked. It is a great mattress. I think you're going to like it so much you're going to change all your mattresses. Casper mattress, it combines latex and memory foam. Now, it's funny. I always thought the memory foam was on the top. No, the memory foam is the main part of the mattress. Latex on top of it. And if you go to the website, you can see how they make it. And it gives you a combination of firmness but give that is exactly right. At least for me. You should try it. I'll tell you what. These are great mattresses. They start at $500 for a twin. King size $950. And they're really easy to get upstairs. And I like that. I ordered one for my son. He's on like the 3rd floor. And he said, I need a mattress. I got to get furniture. I need a mattress. And I sent him a Casper Queen, and they got it up easily. He loves it, by the way. And if you mention the offer code MacBreak, you will save $50 as one of our audience members. Casper.com/MacBreak. The latex keeps you cool. The memory foam gives you firmness. It's a really nice combination. Just the right amount of bounce and give, but I need a little bit of firmness. Casper.com/MacBreak. Use the promo code MacBreak to find out more and to save $50 on your mattress purchase. Bed that loves you back. Oh, isn't that sweet? Inside Apple's top secret health and fitness lab. ABC had the video. They actually talked, it's interesting, with Jay Blahnik, who's the guy who came over from Nike, the fitness guru who came over from Nike, and gave them a tour of Apple's not-so-secret health lab. But this is an ad. I think this is an ad. That doesn't look like Jay.
Remember the days when Apple would only show you inside their labs when they were in big, big trouble?
Well, interesting. Does this mean... No. I mean, it's a different policy where they realize that there's really very little to be gained by maintaining such absolute airtight secrecy, and that sometimes if you really want to show off why all the work you put into a product and why it's such a good thing, why not show people how much work you put into it? Yeah, people are interested in the story behind it. This is ABC's Nightline, and notice they say top secret. Look, we're going inside.
Don't say it's top secret unless you're being shot at while you're filming.
It looks like the top secret Apple lab contains rowing machines, treadmills, and Stairmasters, and lots of people wearing gas masks. Those are...
They're all Bane.
It's Bane.
I don't think you understand.
Well, one of the things we asked at the event was because like I have a rowing machine and I wanted to know if it would track that because a lot of fitness bands will, and they said yes it will, and they did spend a lot of time figuring out how to track.
I row every day, and that's one of the big frustrations of every fitness band I've ever used. All the previous ones are for walking and running. Period.
It's not helpful if you want to do anything else.
Right. So in fact, I've been known to put the jawbone up on my ankle while I bicycled, hoping that it would measure bicycling. So that's good news. I hope it does do that.
Yeah, it does. It's one of the settings, like it has different modes, and you could put it in the mode for rowing machines or for one of the other bits of gym equipment.
That is fabulous. The reason I think that they had masks on is they're measuring oxygen consumption. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that they're doing that. I'm not sure what that has to do with the Apple Watch.
Well, probably because remember it's calculating how much you're exerting and how much you're moving around.
It's so the VO2 max that they want to measure, right?
I bet that they're just trying to figure out how to dial in one of those rings to say, here's how much work you've been doing today. Mm-hmm. So they have actual data that can compare it to their guesses and just to come up with a good guess.
I'll tell you, if Apple's figured out how to do that, that's huge. That's one of the things that no one else has yet figured. The Up 3, I'm told, my Dr. Mom, who's a customer, will do that, but she says it's not out yet. We'll measure the rowing and other stuff. This is ABC really. Hey, look, they got a great interview. It's a great story. People are interested, but this is massive PR for the Apple Watch.
Yeah,
very much so. And I think it's really interesting that we're Jeff Williams be so out in front, especially because we haven't seen a lot of public appearances from him aside from the Apple Watch, most recently the event where he kind of got to introduce ResearchKit, but actually being able for him to go out to ABC News and be sort of the spokesperson for the health initiatives that Apple is doing. That's huge. It's a big sort of step forward into the spotlight for him.
Jay is Apple's chief operating officer, but this is Jay Blahnik. Jeff is.
Jeff Williams is the chief operating officer. Yeah. Jay Blahnik is in charge of fitness.
Right. Is Jeff going to show up on this later? Or
he was at the beginning. He was the guy at the very beginning.
He was the guy at the beginning. Yeah. Jeff Williams is the COO, and there's the ABC correspondent actually running on a treadmill so that you believe that she was there. And then more PR video from Apple. There's a lot of it salted in here.
I think Jeff's official title is Senior Vice President of Operations. I don't think he's
not COO, but he took Tim Cook's job.
Yes.
When Tim was moved upstairs, yeah.
And he's in charge of all the health stuff at Apple, I believe, which shows you just how important those key sort of Voltron executives are at Apple. He's the operations guy, but he's also got all this underneath him.
Yeah.
Voltron executives?
Well, that's the joke. They all kind of combine together to make Apple from that page.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody reminds me that this company, ABC, is owned by Disney. Which has very close ties to Apple.
Bob Iger's on the board.
Shared board members. And, of course, the Jobs family is the largest shareholder of the Disney company. That explains the access.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I spent the past day just reading about like early Apple and Steve Jobs. He opens up the book by talking about how the first time he was sent by the Wall Street Journal to interview Steve, basically the first 15 minutes Steve was interviewing him as if to say, let's first see if you're qualified to talk to me about technology. And I don't think that this ABC reporter had to go through anything like that. So this is... She's useful. She looks. I don't know who she is, and she certainly looks capable. But like whether she is capable or not, she would have gotten this interview.
Yeah. Well, this is like I said, it's PR.
Yeah. Is the PR starting to get a little bit oppressive? Because I got to say that I'm starting to tune out a little bit.
When Siri starts saying things like "I'm waiting for the Apple Watch," now, admittedly, that doesn't get intruded into. You know, if you say, "Hey Siri, what time is it?" You have to ask, what are you
If only
you
had an Apple Watch, you could ask the watch.
Yeah, now if she starts saying that, I'm going to get pissed off. But this is a big push for Apple. And you know what, Andy, to your point that Apple didn't used to do this until they were in trouble, I don't know. I think you almost could say Apple's a little nervous about the watch and about its success, and maybe is pushing a little hard right now.
I don't know if they're nervous. I do think that this is a device that they have extreme faith in. This isn't Apple TV where they think this is the time to release the hardware. We don't know what it's going to do, but we know we're in this for the long haul. They feel as though if we strike right now and strike hard, we will have one of the greatest product launches in Apple history. And I think that's why they're really using every asset they can possibly use. I think they also understand that this is not a device that anybody wants, and that's not meant as a criticism of the device. It means that almost nobody owns a smartwatch at this point, and so nobody can say, oh my God, I've been waiting for a device just like this. Not only has nobody been waiting for it, nobody knows what this device is or why you would even want it in the first place. So that's why there's so much education that has to happen in that time. Maybe one of the reasons why they decided to do this announcement the way they did, where they're giving people 6 weeks before they can start ordering, is to fill that 6 weeks time with education, and to say, well, you know what, maybe you were not going to be interested. Maybe you wouldn't have been interested in this after seeing a few commercials, but after seeing 6 weeks worth of coverage in every media outlet we can possibly get at, including high-end, $8,000 an issue fashion magazines. Okay, I'm lying, but you know what I mean. This is going to be get people off the fence from maybe this is sort of interesting to I definitely want to at least take a look at this. Oh wow, I can actually go to my local Apple store and try one on. That's great.
It's a big challenge too, because it was such a gap. Like they were going to get thousands of those things onto employees' arms out in Cupertino, and they were going to get seen. So there was a big gap between September and now, and it's really challenging to maintain initiative and momentum in PR for that long. And you don't want to do too little and people forget about it. You don't want to do too much and they feel oppressed by it. But you want to do enough that it sort of builds and gains that momentum. And to Andy's point, there was this great article in a blog to watch by Ariel Adams where he laid out the problem that Apple and things like the iPhone taught people they didn't need watches anymore. Now they have to teach people why they might want them again. Yeah. I thought from a watch person's perspective, it was really interesting because he thought the way that Apple was tackling the bands, for instance, was stuff that even watchmakers weren't doing. And the way that they were manufacturing these things, it wasn't like, he thought a lot of the current smartwatches were like little plasticky toys. And this was really a watch aficionados kind of watch. And it was just interesting to see again from the watch perspective how they're marketing this.
Yeah, I also think it's...
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I also really think that this is the first real brand new product, like not just an iteration, but brand new product that Apple's had to release since Steve Jobs' death. And while I don't necessarily think that anybody's nervous about that, it is a pretty big thing to have to do. It's a brand new product, a great deal of which is clearly directly inspired from Tim Cook and his leadership team. And as a result, I feel like they want to make sure that it launches on the best foot forward. I think everything that Andy and Rene said as well is absolutely true. But the double combination I think is very important.
Is that me dinging? Did you notice?
Oh, no, that was all me. I had my sound on earlier. I was waiting for an Instacart delivery.
It was such a clear ding. You want to go get your Instacart?
Oh, no, I got it. I got it right before the show. I just
forgot. Is that your shopping? Is that groceries?
Yeah, I hadn't actually tried it until today, but I'm recovering from a cold and was running around, and I'm like, I don't have time to get groceries.
Wow, they deliver in an hour.
Yeah,
Does that work?
Cool. Yeah, and they like subbed in some cheddar because they didn't have the right kind at the store, and that actually worked fine. So it was cool. It was very fast, very very efficient, and not having to worry about getting in my car while I'm sniffly and unhappy.
Yeah. Is it a particular store or is it a variety of stores?
In Boston, they offer support from, I think, Whole Foods and Shaw's and Star Market. So it's just, I think it depends on where you're living. I know they don't.
A&P in the Northeast. A&P owns Super Fresh. Huh. I had not heard of this because we don't have it in beautiful downtown Petaluma, of course. Instacart.
The one nice thing about living in a city is you get to try out all of the crazy startups. Not so much in Boston as in San Francisco, but yeah, I had
This is interesting. They have surge pricing on delivery. Oh dear.
You want that cheddar? It's 1.8.
It's going to cost you. Wow. So when they're busy, when more customers want a delivery, it's going to cost you more.
Neighborhood auction.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. Who will deliver it fastest?
Who will get that cheddar?
See, yet another advantage of being single and living and working out of your home office. You can order things at 3:20 in the afternoon when nobody wants anything delivered ever.
And of course, whenever you have something become digitized, technologized, you get big data. And here's some big data. The top foods searched in 2014 on Instacart: cold brew coffee, followed by criminy mushrooms, artisan marshmallows. Oh dear. And Brussels sprouts.
Artisan marshmallows?
Artisan marshmallows. Now, drop in momentum. Sriracha sauce, kale, quinoa. What is it? Quinoa? Bacon. Bacon was big. What happened? Greek yogurt and coconut water. Those were the big foods of last year. They're dropping.
Apparently, no one likes kale anymore.
Isn't this? I love big data. I love this kind of stuff.
It's interesting.
They have 50 grocery retailers in 15 cities.
I want some advanced analytics, though. I want to know who is doing the combined searches. Let's get some market basket analysis going here.
Well, I think it would actually be more fun if I have access to those analytics. I would like to see, like, what am I buying? How often am I buying it? And after a year or two, why is there a seasonal drop in my healthy eating? Is there a time where I start to decide that I want to start having more vegetables?
Andy Ihnatko has been eating too much prosciutto and drinking too much rosé.
There's no such thing as too much.
Fortunately, his consumption of Himalayan pink salt has dropped, along with an increase in artisan marshmallow consumption.
Yeah, there'll be like an app for the Apple Watch where you have like 3 bands for your nutrition, where like vitamins and minerals, and then pretension.
Bread.
You're buying an expensive vinegar, but you could be buying a more expensive vinegar.
I don't know why they say this. The most hipster cities.
Although everybody loves being associated with that. That's how you sell more.
Yeah, I think the list is correct. It starts at Austin, then Boulder, Colorado, Portland, Oregon, Los Angeles. Really hipster? I guess so. I guess there's pockets.
Parts of LA.
Yeah, San Fran, Philly,
Silver Lake.
Wow.
Awesome. Serenity, we still live in the most nerdly city ever. We are not hip. We are the opposite of hip.
Hoot hoot.
Total win.
Whoop whoop. Apple retail stores planning for the watch. Mark Gurman has the story. They're going to give you 15-minute appointments. Now, that's starting April 10th. Mm-hmm. So does that mean I guess I would go online and they'd say, what would you like? And I say, I would like to see the watch. And they'll say, good, your 15 minutes of fame is at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, you can walk into, but you'll have to wait.
10 or more try-on stations per store. And there will be a special experience if you register for the edition.
There's a champagne room in most Apple stores.
Champagne room.
And you get a mani-pedi while you're trying.
Yeah, exactly. They've removed the bathroom from the back of house, and they've changed it into like a gold-plated special room. You know what? I was actually... Go ahead.
I was going to make a snide remark. That snide remark being that I think with the edition, those are the people for which they will actually sanitize the band before they put it on you.
It will actually be sanitized.
Oh, womp womp. No, it's interesting. I was talking to Neil Seibert about this last week, 2 weeks, right before Mark put out his piece, and we were hypothesizing about like how Apple might go about doing this. And this is almost exactly how our theories were playing out. I'm like, it's probably going to work like a normal personal. Like Apple has had personal shopping appointments available for before I was working there and after I left, where it was like 15-minute slots where you could go in and get a computer. But now, I mean, it makes perfect sense. You tie it to the watch. You have a specific appointment time. You come in. You meet your personal specialist.
Apple Watch specialist for today.
They're going to guide you through the process. They're going to show you your bands and also keep a careful eye.
Would you like an artisan marshmallow?
It's going to be horrible. Can I have the gold link bracelet, but this on the side? Can I get this one with that? But can I get this on the side?
That's what I'm thinking. 15 minutes is
so frustrating.
Not enough.
The lighting here in this store is terrible. Can I see what it looks like in the hallway outside the store near the parking lot?
Most stores will be provided one table with at least 10 surrounding Apple Watch try-on stations. While some Apple stores will have more tables to meet demands, obviously, in those hipster cities. Apple stores will begin setting up the Apple Watch tables on April 9th and 10th during special overnight sessions for employees. I'm sure the employees look forward to those every year. They'll also begin a few hours of more extensive Apple Watch training in the following couple of days. He wrote this on the 18th, so presumably they're doing it right now. And we do know that people were here for training around the Spring Forward event because we had quite a few Apple retail employees stopping by the studio.
They had a bunch of cities people went to for training in Canada and the U.S. and other places.
We're close enough to Cupertino that it was easy for them to come up. They say Cupertino, Los Angeles, Austin, and Atlanta in the U.S. Apple will split its retail staff into 4 zones when those hands-on trials and sales begin. Zone 1, stationed to the Apple Watch try-on area to assist customers in trying on the aluminum sport watch or the stainless steel, Apple Watch if you can't afford better. Zone 2 for sales will include 2 lines. Oh, get ready for this. One for people who know exactly what Apple Watch they want to purchase. The others for those who are still undecided about the right watch, casing, and band choice. Group 3 of employees will answer general questions about the watch's functionality and explain features. And then Group 4, dedicated to assisting buyers of the gold Apple Watch Edition models.
At selected outlets only.
Yeah, it's not every store,
Yes.
so don't just be going right down to the Vallejo store because they ain't going to have it. This group of employees will be made up of experts, Apple Store employees who have worked at the company for an extensive period of time and have completed extra customer service training.
Ben Stiller and Adam Sandler.
Their grooming will be impeccable. A pair of experts... Go ahead.
I was actually thinking about that. One of the things I really like and respect about the Apple Store is that I will see Apple Store employees of every description imaginable. I really enjoy the fact that I enjoy the fact that they're Apple people working at the Apple Store who have like full sleeve tattoos, that wear short sleeves. They don't have to hide anything. They don't have to take out. They don't feel like they have to take out their piercings, and they feel as though whatever they want to be, they're going to be accepted as employees there. I wonder if there's going to be a different sort of rule for the people who attend to the Apple Edition people.
Gosh, that's a tough thing for Apple to do because you're right. They've been so accepting in the past.
Ooh, I just ducked out.
You got to think roller derby girls will not be allowed to demonstrate. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we're both you and it's probably us if both you and Andy are having trouble.
Or it's Boston.
Yeah, I can't see. Yeah, I can't see you guys all of a sudden.
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Okay, we'll fix this in a moment.
Oh, there we go. Aha. Yeah.
I can both see and hear you.
I guess
Yes.
Jason likes Serenity more than he likes me. That's fine.
He fixed her first, I admit.
Yeah.
I'm more Apple Watch Sport Edition customer service than Apple Watch Edition.
I think we know who's sport here and who's
Again,
Get in the
Serenity
proper line, Andy.
Serenity had $34,000 of Apple Gold on her wrist a couple weeks
The
ago.
stores have, if you've been in an Apple store, the stores have already started putting up lovely bioluminescent displays. These are those These are those glowing Duratrans screens that.
And it's interesting that they went from displays like that to the very photography-oriented people holding technology, using it in real life, and now they've gone back to the product shots again.
Yeah.
Well, the product shots look like that.
Yeah, they're pretty gorgeous, aren't they?
I'm just sad they aren't GIFs. I just want that Rene's band. Yeah. Moving back.
Oh, that
and
would be
forth.
amazing.
Oh, I love that video. That, and I just want to see Mickey tapping his toes. Come on! I want to buy the watch! Come on! Let's see. Apple is also considered utilizing the same new text message-based... I'm reading again from Mark Gurman, from the Good Book. Apple has once again considered utilizing the text message-based appointment system its Genius Bar uses to organize Apple Watch try-ons. That's really, I think, what I'm interested in. I'm sure people at home who are interested in buying the watch, which is undoubtedly a small percentage of the total. How is that pre-order going to happen? I'm not going to. Am I going to? Well, for instance, I can order online, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
In theory, yeah.
Go to store.apple.com, say, I know what I want.
Yeah.
I want the
April
stainless
10th,
steel with
they said.
Milanese loop, and boom. They deduct it
go.
from your credit card, and on April 24th, it arrives by FedEx. Yeah?
Well,
I
or
have to wonder
especially
if
designed.
you're going to be able to do that for, the edition.
No.
They're on the site. Like the edition is there with a price button and everything.
I'm
right
sure you
now.
can. If your credit card is good for it, you can do it.
They'll take your money.
Why not?
There's so much that's interesting about how this experience is going to be different. Not just who's going to be serving these people, but also will they give people that same occasional, oh, you're here to pick up your order? Let me scan your barcode with my phone. Beep. Okay, so we'll be out with your purchase in about 30 seconds. Here you go. Goodbye. Like, but I just spent $18,000. Thank you for the $18,000. Goodbye.
I'm also
will it be
concerned.
shares? I'm not even joking here. Will they be sit down? Here's a beverage. Here's a special area. I know it's very crowded in the store, but here's a quiet, calm area where you can check it out, and we can show you how it works.
I think they have to, because anybody who's spending that much money on a watch expects that, right?
They should really just buy Blue Bottle coffee, put one next to every Genius Bar, and then let you try on editions right at the coffee bar. I mean, that would just be the confluence of everything that's good.
I think if you go into an Apple store to buy an edition, whether it's the 10,000 or more likely more, often I would suspect 17,000, and maybe you buy a few bands over 20,000, that they will not treat you as if you're, well, maybe they will. I mean, you can easily spend 20 grand on Mac Pros.
It'll treat you like they're your Alex Lindsay.
Yeah.
The Alex
Oh,
Lindsay
hi,
treatment.
Alex. We haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah,
Also,
10
we're
Mac Pros to go.
We're also presuming that the people who are buying these watches are all like Thurston Howell and Lovey Hobble.
No,
a
they're
lot
not.
of people who
Sure.
a lot of people who can afford these watches are really just they happen to have the money for that kind of stuff, but otherwise they drive not crazy cars, they dress in not crazy clothes, and they're okay with simply, hi, I bought the watch, please, like serve that. They don't request or require that their feet be licked. They just want to be handed the watch that they paid for and be shown, make sure they know how it fits and how it works.
The one billionaire that I know well enough to say I'm a friend of and spend some time with is you would not know from a distance that he's a billionaire. He doesn't usually wear socks. He'll pull up in a nice car. It'll be a Mercedes or a high-end car, but you would walk in the door and you wouldn't say, "Oh, there's Thurston Howell. This is just a normal-looking guy."
Yeah.
He's a geek. He will almost certainly want to get an Apple Watch. He could certainly afford to get an expensive one. Now, I don't know what kind of experience he would expect. Remember when Oprah went to the Swiss store, the handbags, and wanted to look at some expensive handbags, and the saleswoman tried to steer her to less expensive handbags, and she was incensed, and that was a big deal.
And was very right to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Think about the Pretty Woman, big mistake, big, huge.
Well, but I don't, I'm in defense of the salesperson. It's a very expensive. If you think it was because she was African American, or it's just because it's an expensive bag, most people aren't going to buy that bag. Maybe you'd like to look at a less expensive bag.
Yeah, but it's hard to not simply. You have to start with convince me that it wasn't a racist sort of thing.
I guess. All right.
And then then he's going down to so it's a classist sort of thing. Even though like this person has clean hands, clean clothes, it costs you nothing to simply show someone this bag. And then
I don't know.
It's just.
I'll give you an example, which doesn't reflect well on me at all. We were in Las Vegas last week for Debbie's birthday, Lisa's sister, and we were having a great time. Went to a nice restaurant, Michael Minna's new restaurant in Bardot, it's called. Like Brigitte Bardot, it's a brasserie. And I ordered a half bottle of wine, and I misread the price. And the price was 10 times more than I had read. I thought it was, and it was, and I would have very much appreciated if the waiter or sommelier had said, that's a $1,000 bottle of wine you just ordered. In some way, I'm sure there's got to be some genteel way to do that, but they didn't. And I know why they didn't, because in Vegas, a high roller, probably some jerky jerk would say, "What do you mean? I can afford that wine. I know what I'm doing," and yell at him. I would have been very grateful because, of course, we opened and drank the wine, and at that point, we owed them $1,000.
Yeah, there's a great book from, I'm looking up the name of the author, but because I can't remember it offhand. A guy, Steve Dublanica, I'm sure I'm murdering that name, has a great book called Waiter Rant. He used to be a waiter at a bistro in the New York City area, and he wrote an entire book about the experiences of being a waiter. And part of it is the ways to say, okay, I've served enough people who buy $1,000 bottles of wine to know this person cannot afford a $1,000 bottle of wine. But you're right; it's the precision with which you can sort of indicate that there is a door towards buying a $10 bottle of wine, and you're free to take it or not. That skill people have. Maybe this is part of the skills of why you need to be trained to sell $10,000 watches as opposed to $350 sport watches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't you think that the Apple Store that they have said things like, people will come in to buy expensive watches that do not look like they can afford it. Please do not say, "Oh, you should look at the sport model." But there must be some way to say, I don't know. I don't buy enough super expensive things to know, but I'm sure jewelry stores do this, right? Oh, you don't want that. Yeah. Lisa and I, when we were looking for wedding or engagement rings, went to a store and looked at $250,000 ring, and they didn't say, "Oh, this is $250,000." They did make sure we were in a locked room when they showed it to us.
See, that I think that's the distinction. It costs you nothing to show anybody anything they ask for, and if you're afraid they're going to grab it and run, you probably have a bad security system in your store, and that's usually the sign of a store that doesn't know what it's doing. That they simply assume that I'm going to walk someone towards a cheaper bag, or as often happens, walk someone straight out of the store. I'm amazed that in the past 6 months, I have walked into really expensive jewelry stores, and sometimes without even calling ahead to explain like my mission, and said, just show me an $800 stainless steel watch, show me a $10,000 watch, no matter what it is, and show me a mid-range watch that's solid gold. And granted, I'm not like in like flip-flops and a Disney World, sleeveless T-shirt or something like that. But I'm dressed like the way that a nerd journalist would be dressed, and almost none of them had any problem with showing me whatever I asked them for.
Showing you is one thing. You're right.
Right.
Unless I just sold your startup to Google, Andy. They have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
Nowadays they don't. And you go to an Apple store, you just can't judge. And yet there must be some subtle way of saying, "Oh, you don't want that." You do know.
Well, there is.
You.
Yeah.
There is.
Well, I actually think that Apple stores already do a great job at kind of finessing the customer's needs by asking. The traditional thing was always ask probing but polite questions. So instead of being like, "What Apple Watch do you want?" you start off with being like,
"What's your
"Oh,
price
so you're interested in the Apple Watch?"
Yeah.
Well, not even what's your price range, but what do you plan to use your watch for? What activities are you interested in? Are you interested in wearing the watch as a day watch, as an evening watch? Are you interested? Do you like metal bands? Do you like plastic bands? Do you like leather bands? Like, you probe around the question rather than it saying like, "All right, what's your price budget?" Sometimes it comes down to that. Sometimes people come into a store and are like, "I have a specific budget. I cannot spend more than $1,500, and I need X, Y, and Z in my computer." And then the sales associate is like, "All right, well, let's look at the computers that we have that fit your needs." But other times people come in and they don't offer that kind of stuff, and I feel like the Apple specialists are usually very well trained in terms of what questions to ask to sort of give away what the customer is looking for without ever having to be like, "Oh, you're dressed in a Disneyland T-shirt and
my goodness,
and bucks." Yeah.
I don't think we'll be allowing you in the store. That's the problem with going from selling computer stuff to selling $17,000 watches, I think.
Yeah. I'm humbled by my preparation to write about Apple Watch stuff, because when it comes to luxury items, I mean, I'm just clueless. I don't know what these people expect. And I think the mistakes that someone like me makes in writing about this stuff is making an assumption about what they want.
Right.
So.
Okay. We'll find out. Another question I have, April 10th is also when the MacBook goes on sale. But Mark Gurman says between 75% and 90% of store retail staff will be allocated to watch. So is it going to be hard to buy anything else?
There's never been lineups for like new Macs or new iPods, or those people. They always have a little bit of staff on the side that handles that well.
There's going to be one poor guy. That'll
And
be
they
the guy
typically
with the tattoos and piercings who says, "Oh, you're buying a Mac. Go over to see that guy."
And typically for launches, it's all hands on deck for the first, hours, if not most of the day, and then it goes back to normal. So they're really good at staging that stuff out.
Should I get in line at midnight?
For the try-on?
It's getting close.
I guess not for the try-on.
Yeah.
The MacBook, I would order it. I mean, I don't think there's any extra value in going to the store. And
Yeah, because they don't have there's not a lot of BTO stuff. It's just, right.
Yeah.
Would you like
There's
one
very
port or
little.
one?
There's two choices, right?
I wonder how they're going to handle traffic, though, because they are going to have a lot of people coming in just to see the watch, and it's not as though there was a lot of like breathable air inside an Apple store on weekends anyway.
2 words, Andy: velvet rope.
Are they going to have
queues.
Are they going to have
Queues
and
forever.
Thank you for for coming in to see your 15-minute demo. Here's a coupon for a free cup of coffee at a kiosk that we've put outside the store.
Jared in New York City in our chat room says exactly the right thing, which is high-priced luxury items. It's not about the item; it's about the experience. So this is why Apple really has to create a kind of velvet rope, white glove experience of some kind. And they're smart. Why do you hire Angela Ahrendts?
It is an interesting question. When I joined the Google Glass Explorers program, which is a fancy way of saying paying $1,500 for beta hardware, it really was a complete concierge experience. It was we're inviting you to what looked like a hair salon. Someone is going to be taking care of you for an entire hour. There are beverages, Coca-Cola, sugar Coca-Cola in glass bottles, whatever I wanted. They spent an entire hour like fitting it and making sure that I knew how to use it and setting up with my phone and with my computers and stuff like that. And that was a $1,500 thing with very little purpose. I can't imagine what a $10,000 thing with very little purpose merits.
Yeah.
Like that, but with shrimp dip.
Yeah, shrimp. There will be shrimp.
2 kinds of sauce. Get the sweet kind and the spicy kind. You buy the Milanese band, you get to have both kinds.
I was very pleased because I like the Milanese band, probably seduced by that ridiculous animated GIF. But where it goes, but I was very pleased to see it's not a super expensive band as I thought it might be.
I was surprised.
Yeah.
Good, because that looks like the expensive fancy band, whereas the Link band, where they say every single link, we start off with a solid cube, a yard wide of aluminum, and we hack away everything but this one link, and we throw out 3 out of every 5 that we make. It's like, but that doesn't. My dad had a watch with a band like that. I've never. The Milanese band is like that is super fancy schmancy as far as I'm concerned.
Right. I actually. Dr. Mom, who is apparently an expert in everything, including jewelry, I believe she makes it, tells me that kind of style, first of all, it's never been called Milanese, but that kind of style is not expensive. It's not an expensive style to get. But you're right, the Link band, when I looked at it, it looks like something for the pocket protector brigade.
I mean, it's not ugly, but it's not like, wow, I could either have like a secondhand pickup truck for moving things around and own it, or I can have this little band.
Well, again, though, if you go to a blog to watch, you go to Hodaki and you read the watch people talking about it, their eyes are just full. They're like, why? It's been 50 years and watch people couldn't do this. How can Apple just walk in and engineer this stuff? So it's definitely got appeal to people who like those sorts of things.
Yeah. Yeah,
but that's hard too. I'm all of us have been now more aware of expensive watches than anything else. One of the things I like that I often do when I'm trying to evaluate something that costs $800, like even the stainless steel one costs $800, I put myself in the mind of, okay, I've got $800 budget to buy a really nice stainless steel watch. What's out there? And when I look at like what's available as $10,000 luxury watch, my eyes pop out at how gorgeous some of these watches are and how interesting they are, whereas it's not like Apple Watch is ugly by any means, but it doesn't look like if I have a $10,000 budget, I would much rather have a sport edition of this and then spend the rest of the money on 2 or 3 of these really amazing $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 watches. So again, that's not a complaint about Apple Watch. That is another data point on my own ignorance about what do people like about a $10,000 digital watch. I am clueless.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. I think we've done our requisite Apple Watch half hour.
According to government regulations, we're good.
Government regulations require half an hour each day on Apple Watch until we get one, and then we'll spend an hour or two, or maybe not. What's the chance that people get it and go, yeah, no, it doesn't work on bicycles, doesn't work on rowing machines. It's crappy at measuring steps.
There'll be a percentage of people, just like with the iPhone or iPad, for which that is absolutely correct, and then there'll be a percentage of people who really like it. It's gonna.
You don't think that there is a risk that this could technologically be a flop?
No, they've had I forget the exact number, like 2,000, close to 3,000 Apple employees wearing them for 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Bain's been testing
they
it
all
for
love
months.
It.
Yeah,
love my Apple Watch.
No, I know a couple of people who have them who are engineers, and being able actually, I was hanging out with a couple of them last week or 2 weeks ago when I was in town in San Francisco for the event. And it actually was really impressive to me just how naturally they were using the watch. And in fact, I mean, they had specific instructions not to demo it to anybody. So it wasn't like they were doing this just to be like, look what I'm using. Look at this. It was just literally, we're having dinner or something and they get a notification and they look at it really quickly and then they're like, all right, let's talk. Or, oh, let me program in directions, or, let me call an Uber. Like it was a lot of like really, really simple, really quick stuff.
Oh, but they were doing
really
stuff.
impressive.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So they weren't hiding that they had it.
People are paying in stores with it. And people say, well, what is that? What is that a Samsung? They go, no. This is the Apple Watch.
Enjoy it while you can, because everybody's going to have it someday.
I wonder, is it going to be, but the core stuff that people really respond to, is it going to be materially better and easier to use than Android Wear?
I'm going to say yes. We'll see.
Notifications are really, really cool. Voice commands are really, really cool. What do you do above and beyond that?
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. Yeah. I've mentioned this before, but I feel like obligated to get 2, one for me and one for my honey, so that we can try it. Because, I'm not going to be sending you my heartbeat, Rene. I got to tell you.
Leo, why must you hurt me?
Okay, if you insist. I was just waiting for you to
I just want to know that you're out there and that you're okay, Leo.
Thum.
I hear a sound of rapping, though. Someone gently tapping on my.
I just want to know that you haven't lost your ridiculous $10,000 watch that you just bought 2 days ago. So if I don't get a heartbeat back, I know that you've screwed up again. You left it on the top of a car.
What about you, Serenity? Do you feel the need to get 2, one for you and one for your sweetheart?
I'm just going to get one because I know that my sweetheart is probably going to get one himself.
You see? That's right.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I'm actually genuinely curious to try out the so-called like gimmicky chat features.
Yeah,
because
me too.
As creepy as like getting a heartbeat from a random person would be, I actually think it's a kind of it's a nice way. I was talking about this last week. It's like it's a nice way to let the people in your life know that like, hi mom,
like mom.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
I landed I landed from the plane. I'm no longer sitting in an airport. Wee.
How has that been going, by the way? Have the parents agreed to get an Apple Watch just so that they'll hear from you?
That's a good question. I know my dad will probably get one. I'm curious about my mother. We'll see. She really likes.
Sorry, I was going to say Gruber said his son is getting one, so he can just tap on his wrist and tell his son he's waiting outside for him to come out of school.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I think that's really cool. Text would work too.
Yeah, the text it pings or it vibrates or it does something that's less discreet.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing about text is, again, if you're driving, it's a lot easier for you to send a like quick tap, 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 tap while you're driving, rather than having to be like, Siri, tell my son that I'm going to pick him up in 5 minutes. Outside, there's more ways for that to get complicated.
I do wonder, though, if Android and other device makers will say, oh, this might be a whole area we could get into, customized beeps or boops or buzzes. Actually, you can do customized buzzes, but I don't think you can trigger them via text. Maybe you can. I bet you can, actually. You can assign a customized vibration to a text message from Dad.
You can do that on the iPhone now. You can set a custom vibration, but it's on your end. It's the sender is not choosing what they send you.
No.
You're choosing how it's received.
But that would be good enough for Gruber to text his son. That.
But it's still bzz, 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 bzz in your pocket.
Yeah,
it's not a subtle tap.
It's not a taptic. Andy?
No, I was going to say exactly that. I mean, I've experienced both kinds, and I don't think that the difference between the haptics that are on a watch like this and the taptics that are on the Apple Watch are miles apart. But it's sort of like how the MacBook Air has a fan, the MacBook Nothing does not have a fan, and there's a difference between a taptic that is completely silent and the kind of a taptic that is almost completely silent, and that will be a defining thing, I think.
My Pebble was loud.
Yeah, this one is okay. It's not a buzzer sort of thing, but it's there. If someone is close enough to me, they might hear something happening on my wrist.
There's something to be said for stealth. Absolutely. I'm excited about the Apple TV set-top box, and I'm very interested what you guys think about this. The leak came from John Pachkowski, who is now working for BuzzFeed. John still has the great connections. And formerly at Recode, and apparently has decided to affect Kiss makeup. He is the managing editor for BuzzFeed San Francisco, and he says that, actually he's repeating what the Wall Street Journal says, but I think BuzzFeed also got some of their own information, that Apple is about to release at the Worldwide Developers Conference a SDK for an app store for a new Apple TV.
Yep.
Gosh, Rene, sounds like you just wrote about this.
Did you? Did Rene get that? Who had that scoop? Who had that scoop?
I don't write scoops, Leo. I posit the immediate future.
I see. So you didn't. You just guessed, but it's been confirmed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like a lot of the stuff is like John absolutely has great sources and he gets a lot of dates and things. A lot of it is like we know what processors Apple has now. We know what technologies like Metal they have. The SDK has been around for a couple of years and there's been renewed. Like people are going to Apple to test stuff on the SDK now. All this stuff is like a lot of rumor is just really understanding the company well and reading the signs that around Apple that sort of look at this stuff. But yeah, a couple weeks ago I did something on the future of the Apple TV where you take a Cyclone, you take the Metal graphics stuff, you put it in a very nice box and you add an SDK to it, and it makes for a very compelling product. It's probably higher end than we've seen before, which explains a lot of why the $69 current generation Apple TV is just the beginning. And I think there's still a lot of questions about how it's going to be controlled. You still have the remote app. The watch has a remote app, but if Apple's going into apps and gaming, how does that manifest? I think Mark on the show last week said that there's a slightly bigger controller, but is the MFI program ramping up so you can have substantial game controllers to play those games with? I have a lot of questions about it, but I think it's about time they get that box out. They've been working on it for a couple of years.
Yeah, we have been saying there'd be an app store, but I kind of had given up. I just thought, oh yeah, someday.
The project's had a lot of up and downs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the stories you hear about Apple TV are all about how they were hoping for X year and then they waited to the next year and then they felt their window closed for that and now they're waiting for the next window to open. And so you talk about playing the long game. This is a par 8.
Yeah,
that Apple's playing with the Apple TV.
Yeah, well, I mean, it had to also be there had to be enough demand, right, to satisfy what Apple wanted to do with the box. And I do think it's interesting. I think the HBO deal that they made is, again, step one in kind of their master plan of let's see what we can do about the future of television and the future of content streaming and how we can kind of take that over and make that the best experience possible. I've been hoping for an app. I mean, we've all been hoping for an app store for years and years and years. But I do feel like this is probably the closest it's going to be. Like this year is the best bet that we're going to have one in quite a while because Apple's not looking at any other major platforms besides Watch in terms of apps, and they're kind of setting the groundwork so that like WWDC seems like the perfect place to announce, say, an SDK for developing for Apple TV as well as developing for Watch without just, Watch extensions. It also, Rene and I were talking about, controllers because God knows, like I lose that tiny little aluminum remote everywhere, and I feel like everyone else does too. It's tiny. It says 3
I
buttons.
lost mine. That's right.
Yeah, and the phone is unfortunately just not a great controller for it right now. So, in theory, having something like the watch is an interesting alternative controller for the television. Being able to develop Siri further with the watch might be interesting as an option for the television. Although I'm still skeptical about controlling things with voice when they can be triggered by the things that the TV itself is spewing. See ahoy telephone anytime you're like, I'm not actually going to say it because if I say it, I will trigger like 10 million people's phones and they're going to get mad at me. But if you were to say the Siri keyword that would trigger a phone that's plugged in, that irritates a lot of people, and that happens. So I can't imagine that the Siri commands for a potential Apple TV would be allowed to be triggered without necessarily pushing a button first.
Yeah.
But no,
I got to go to Nuance last week. Nuance had an open house, and they have a major office in Montreal, and they were showing off a lot of what they were doing with living room, with car, with watch, and things like that. And they do something like it's not exactly, but it's like voice ID, where they lock on a specific voice, and it's almost they use it for bank app security. So it's at the point where it's almost like Touch ID, where they can really make sure it's you talking and not some random person. And they also do things like beamforming, where if it's in the living room product, you snap twice, and then all the microphones, and if there's a camera, lock on you, and then isolates all of the audio in the room, so it's only you speaking. There's a lot of technologies that already exist for this kind of thing to make technologies like Siri or Amazon's, I forget what it's called, the Echo product, work in living rooms. It's just a question of, is Apple going to adopt them? How fast are they going to adopt them? And there's also a case to be made, and I tried making it in the same article, and I've got no information about Apple going ahead with this, where you could take Apple TV logic and put that inside the phone the way CarPlay lives inside the phone, and then just have a little dongle like a Google Chromecast dongle for people who really only want streaming, who don't care if the stick by itself can do anything. And then you just plug that in. Everything works on the phone. It beams to the TV, and that becomes a super cheap product. And then you have sort of layers of Apple TV. But I think there's a lot of room for them to do a lot of interesting stuff here.
Yeah, I so long as they just move forward with this. I mean, Apple has sometimes waiting for the right moment is Apple's greatest strength, as with the phone, as with tablets, as with what I refer to as Apple's netbook. And sometimes you're just delaying something and letting more brave people make more awesome things than you. Because right now the Apple TV it's not a piece of junk, but it really looks like it belongs in like Obama's first term, as opposed to a box like the Roku that maybe doesn't have the perfect app store environment, but it means that Sling Player can have a Slingbox app, Aereo can have an Aereo app. Everybody can roll their own apps for pretty much anything. I can have an app that will attach to automatically find all the media on all the servers on my house, and that wasn't necessarily a built-in feature of the Roku, but I was able to simply install this with one click. And so it's you wonder how long people are going to have to wait to get what other people would consider basic functionality, while Apple tries to figure out what's the perfect way to do an app store, what's the way that benefits the entire ecosystem more than the way we're going to do it last year. So Apple, I think, is smart enough to know that people are going to buy Apple TV once they produce the final package. So it's not as though people are going to be running elsewhere and never buying Apple TVs. But it's too bad that the people who did buy Apple TVs a few years ago have to deal with a seriously substandard product for many years.
We should mention that when you say it's Obama era, you're not talking about the physical design, which actually is very nice and looks a lot like a Roku. You're talking about the UI.
I mean the software,
sucky.
the UI, the speed of it, the fact that I have my Roku is on HDMI 1, my Apple TV is on HDMI 2, and sometimes I will flick over to that to do something or to check out some Apple content. And it's like, oh my God, what's that thing I'm looking at? I haven't seen it in years on that screen. Oh, that's right. It's a spinning please wait cursor. It's like, oh, it's a please wait as we authenticate you box. Oh, I have not seen that in like several months. Isn't that adorable? I remember when I was young and innocent and, oh boy. Remember when comic books used to be 89 cents? That's the last time I saw one of those memories.
Not to excuse anything, but the Apple TV is under Eddie Q, which is very different dynamic than the iPhones or the iPads. And it probably means that they're more susceptible to things like content deals holding them up. Like, for example, and I think we talked about this before, there's no universal search on the Apple TV. Other boxes have it. Apple apparently is not allowed doing it, the same way they weren't allowed getting DRM-free MP3s when other people like Amazon were allowed getting them. So the way that product is set up puts an awful lot of constraints and a lot of different pressures on them that maybe something like the iPhone or iPad doesn't have to deal with in this general yearly cycle.
Well, two quick responses. Consumers absolutely don't care about that.
No, absolutely.
And secondly, okay, so Roku. Okay, I shouldn't get into it. It's like I acknowledge that possibility, and that's a good point. However, if they willfully read the contracts that they signed and said that we're not going to allow voice search, we're not going to allow this, we're not going to allow apps on this, that was a dumb thing to do. Just as stupid as having a remote that's about as thin as a slice of processed cheese and making that the standard remote. So I don't.
I think you will be happier this summer.
Good point. Yeah, I believe I believe so too.
Fingers crossed.
But let's keep our fingers crossed. I alongside Rene, I believe that we're going to be happy with what we see at WWDC.
All right. And do you think that they're going to make the content deals? Because that's, I think, a lot of what we're talking about here.
As a Canadian, do I think that I'll get content
you're not
deals?
going to get crap. We know that.
Sorry, Rene.
Bad news, Rene.
Yeah, I think you guys will get stuff.
Yep.
NBC. So the rumors, I think we've talked about this, but that NBC is not going to play along with the others will. Blah blah blah. Accurate.
ABC Disney will be on board.
We know they'll have ABC.
Yeah, I mean NBC is a question. I know they're heavily invested in Hulu and that sort of avenue, but you also have to remember that all of these networks are kind of two partner arms, right? You've got the actual broadcast networks, and then you've got the networks that own the shows that are developing, and sometimes those are the same networks, and sometimes those are different. A great example of this is the sort of the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which has been like a huge blow up hit for Netflix. That's actually produced and owned by NBC, by NBC Studios, NBC Universal, Comcast, whatever the super umbrella is called now. NBC sold that show to Netflix for distribution rights. So there's stuff like that where I think that although Apple may not be able to make traditional content deals directly with the networks, they may still be able to get some of their shows by making individual deals for those specific areas.
I wonder how people react to I wonder if people react to these sort of packages the same way or differently than I react to them, where broadcast TV and cable have their problems, but you pay a very, very simple fee or pay nothing. And I get NBC, I get ABC, I get CBS, I get Fox, I get PBS, I get a couple other stations. It's not, well, we're going to give you ABC and NBC. We can give you CBS News and 60 Minutes, but we can't give you the Big Bang Theory, which you like. David Letterman Show, you're going to have to go to the website to get that. It's the uncrackable coconut here is give me everything I want in one package instead of having to launch separate apps or even separate devices to get there. And I'm not sure that it's such a fragmented set of deals between all these different content providers that it might even be an unattainable thing in the next 5 or 6 years.
Just please the customer.
I did. I mean, just to show you how weird it is. I haven't done stuff for the CBS Network Morning Show in a few years, but I was going to demonstrate a video app, and I had ripped a app from a certain very popular CBS show. So I figured, well, okay, but they're not going to have to get permission to use that. And they said, well, here are the shows you can use. We don't have to really ask permission with. We don't have a good relationship with this one show. And it's like, okay, I'll get something else. But like, this is a really popular network-owned show. Like, okay.
Well, that's because it's produced outside the network.
Right?
No,
I don't want to give anything away. It was.
Okay.
All I'll say is it surprised me that it would, even though it would have, in this case, it would have been, I'll walk 3 blocks away from your studio right now to talk to this people at this studio to see if get permission. Wow. It's like, no, this, even though they're 3 blocks away, we just, it's easier just if you just use something else. Like, okay. Right. So it's really complicated.
So credit where credit is due. Rene predicted it, but BuzzFeed confirmed it.
Well, I said John's got awesome sauces.
With
sources.
their
and
sources.
sauces. He's probably
And
got
sauces.
both.
They have
He
awesome
does.
sauces.
Sources and sauces.
I didn't realize, I saw that BuzzFeed had broken the story, and I thought, wow, I don't usually see BuzzFeed break stuff. And then I saw that Pachowski went over there. And I go, I see.
Matt Honen's running their West Coast bureau now.
I saw that Matt
Honan.
Honan went over
They've
there.
collected a bunch of things.
Wow.
They've collected a bunch of good people.
I hope they snap up some other good people like some of the Macworld staff. Of course, Serenity's already been snapped.
I think most of us are in
Are they
new
somewhere? Good.
positions now.
Well,
yeah,
now-
you
yeah,
got
now we
Dan
have,
Frakes over at
Giga.
the Wirecutter.
Now we have Giga Ohm to get
Those
jobs.
poor
for
guys.
those poor guys.
Yeah, I think Recode just snapped up one of the Giga owned people.
Good. Glad to
Yeah.
hear. That's kind of inside baseball, but our friends, so we like to talk about them, and I think probably your friends too, since a lot of them are on these shows. Apple, now tell me about this. We talked about this yesterday on iPad Today. Apple seems to be yanking antivirus apps from the iOS App Store. Intigo said we've been yanked. Lookout was apparently yanked, according to 9 to 5 Mac. If you search for these antiviruses, you'll only if you search for antivirus, you only see games or Find My iPhone-esque apps. Intigo says the takedown was the whole category. Intigo makes the virus barrier. On the one hand, you might say, well, this is Apple PR saying, oh, well, you don't need an antivirus. But the way Apple designs iOS, it may in fact be that an antivirus can't actually do anything.
Yeah, those apps were. Sorry.
No, I am inclined to agree with you, Leo, in that there's very little that an antivirus app can really do on iOS. I don't know, Rene, do you want to? You know a little bit more about the super technical aspects than I do.
No, it's just, most of those, a couple of the posts of the people whose apps were taken away weren't very outraged. They're more like, oh, yeah,
we knew.
I get.
We weren't really doing anything.
Yeah, we were checking your email attachments if they were stored on the cloud in this way or that way. And we understand why it could be confusing that people think they're buying antivirus like they're used to from their computer and it doesn't do that.
Here's one thing I would like, and tell me if this is possible. And this is really mostly what happens on Android, too. Most of the time on Android, those so-called antivirus apps are not doing what antiviruses do on computers. They're not scanning for looking for virus signatures. They only check downloads against a database of known malware and flag it if it's there. Isn't that the case?
They kill the battery in a second if they did the same things that a desktop app did. So
right, and in the case of iOS, they can't scan the file system. Nothing can except Apple. But I'll give you an example, and this is why I mention this. You know about Freak, which is an exploit that basically is a downgrade in encryption technology exploit that takes advantage of servers. You have to have a malformed server and a malformed app talking together. All the browsers now, including Safari on iOS, have been patched so they're not vulnerable to Freak. But Freak would allow a man in the middle to see what you're doing in SSL and steal stuff. But according to this article by Dan Gooden, who's very good in Ars Technica, he's actually talking about a FireEye study. FireEye also very good. They searched Google Play and Apple App Store. They found 1,228 Android apps with 1 million or more downloads were vulnerable to Freak. 771 of the top iOS apps, they only scanned the top 14,000, are susceptible. That's 771 apps that could quite reasonably be in a database for Intigo or somebody else to say, hey, you have on your iPhone a vulnerable app, you might want to consider not using it. That would be, now, I don't think viruses are a problem on any mobile platform, but this is an example of where a security program, let's not say antivirus, could be very useful. Can any iOS app do that kind of thing, Rene?
No, I mean there's very, very few things that actually have unrestricted background access, and one of them is like audio streaming. And anyone who's used Skype on iOS knows what if there's anything ever goes wrong with that, your battery, like Andy said earlier, just starts diminishing because it's just these machines were not designed to do that kind of thing. But moreover, all those apps, at least in iOS, if they're using the default web view, as soon as iOS is updated, all those apps are updated because they're not creating their own web browser. They're pulling Apple's UI web view or now WK, the WebKit version web view.
No, but iOS has been patched. iOS 8.2 is Freak free, but those apps remain vulnerable. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't read the following clause when they run on earlier versions of iOS. So you're exactly right. They're using WebKit, which has been patched, So it's only an issue on older iOS versions.
And those are probably abandoned apps that wouldn't.
He
be
did
updated.
say that 7 of the 771 apps, so 7 apps on iOS, are susceptible to freak even on iOS 8.2. Now they unfortunately
I'd have
didn't
to look at those.
They didn't identify those, unfortunately. So now my question is, so you're saying because an app can't run in the background, there's no way Lookout or Intego could say, well, let me see if you have one of those 7 apps. They can't do it unless you run them, right? If you
they could make an app. There's different ways to detect what apps are on your phone. Some people use the I forget what it's called, the URL scheme to determine if an app has registered that URL with the system, and other ones try to read what background tasks are running, and they try to present you with it.
That antivirus or security app would have to be running in the foreground. Couldn't run in the background.
You'd have to open it up and then look, and then it would have to look and compare that against its list, and you'd hope that its lists were updated and no false positives or negatives.
Right. Yeah, admittedly, it's only 7 apps out of 14,000, but it's still 7 apps. And that's just the top 14,000. These are the top apps downloaded. These are not the millions of apps on the App Store. We don't know how many of those are implicated. So there is my point being, there is a use and even a capability for a security program to run on iOS.
Yeah, but then you get into, I think Steve's mentioned this before, is once you start granting access, then bad guys start using the same access.
But without additional access, I could make a security program that would check at least for those 7 apps, but it's now and then. So then the second part of the question is Apple blocking those antiviruses? Is it blocking a program like that?
They don't allow. They only allow voice over IP, background navigation, and streaming audio as full background APIs. The rest is all in demand.
I understand. So I'm acknowledging that. But I'm saying I could still write an app that would, via URL schemes or some other technique, when it's in the foreground, when it's running, check to see if there's bad apps on my phone.
Yeah, you'd have to submit it, and we'd see if they'd approve it or not. I don't know of any apps that do that already.
Yeah. Also, you compare with everything like this, even in the real world, you compare what is the actual level of threat and what is the amount of trouble and the amount of inconvenience and the amount of insecurity you're willing to introduce in order to attack that threat. And because malware on the iPhone is not a problem at this point, it seems like a bad move to try to
make great trouble for other people. Without opening any holes or without in any way modifying the iPhone as it works today, you could have a security app that would find 7 programs no one should be using on iOS. Those 7 programs are in the App Store, according to FireEye. It is conceivable of a program that would do that. So I'm not asking to open holes. I'm not saying there is no malware. It's not exactly malware, but there are programs you should not run on iOS in the App Store.
Yeah, you can make it. You just have to submit it and see if they approve it, and if they approve it, if they leave it approved.
Yeah, I mean, don't you agree, Andy? If such a thing existed, you should be allowed to download it.
I have to be careful here because I'm half remembering something someone told me a couple of years ago about how an app with that function would work, and an explanation of why that would not be a good thing.
Oh, okay.
But I stress that I'm half remembering it, and it might be bull to begin with. So that's why I have to simply say I would not be surprised if it turned out that that was a bad idea. But it's possible that you're right. There's no reason for them not to do it. What Rene has posited what is always the only way to find out what Apple will or will not allow. You have to write it, you have to submit it, and then see what they do with it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's possible that Apple will bring the same sort of malware. Like on OS 10, they already scan for malware, and it's conceivable that that sort of system would come from Apple themselves at some point.
Yeah, I mean, and they do that. Google does that on Android as well. But there are additional apps like Lookout is an example on Android. I don't know what Lookout does on iOS, but on Android, that's exactly what Lookout does. It has a database of known apps you shouldn't be running. It would include those 221 or what it is, 1,441.
See, I ran those on Windows, and I would always, once in a while, they get updated definitions, and it would suddenly flag, like, Win32 as a bad app.
Yeah.
So it's hard to educate people about, the intricacies of that stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, that's part of the advantage of that's part of what's possible with Android. That's not possible with iOS. Android is the wild west, which is both like Homer Simpson's definition of beer as the cause of and solution to all our problems. The openness of Android means that it lets in the possibility of malware, but also lets in the possibility of writing apps that combat malware.
Right.
Hello Kitty keyboard.
I just want to. All I'm asking, and there is no answer, is Apple doing this as sort of a PR move? Hey, there's no viruses.
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's just my article of faith. We've had enough history with them to know that they don't tend to. I can't remember. I can't think of a single instance in which they abandoned an app simply for PR reasons. Even when it looked like, oh well, look how you're now turning down this Google Play app, or you're now turning down this Comixology app that sells content. No, it's not because they wanted to keep Google Play out. It's because that they had a link to their store that is not allowed in for any developer in any circumstances. So that's why my default position, until shown otherwise, is that Apple is not using App Store approvals in any sort of a strategic way.
Yeah, they haven't said they're cracking down on antivirus apps. Intigo says they are. Intigo has a little bit of a dog in this hunt since it makes an antivirus app. And I think it's just as likely that Apple says, you know what, there's no way an antivirus app could actually be useful on iOS because we've structured it that way, so we're just going to kick them all off. You know, in other words, these apps are snake oil. They don't do anything. Which raises the question, why did they get approved in the first place?
Just like there was a moment when you could get a fart app approved, and then Apple said, "Look,
it's enough.
We really don't want to see any more of these. We don't think they're good for anybody." Oh yeah, no. There's a conversation that I might not be able to talk about of someone who had it wasn't a fart app. It was a fart adjacent app. Let's say, okay, where an app that simply tapped into the universal and accessible humor of bodily gas emissions. So it wasn't like, hey, look at the noises it's make. It was part of a game in which there was a farting could have been part of the humor of the game, and Apple rejected it because they said no farting. We will not have farting. Take your farts out.
I think Steve at one point just went and wrote that into the rules, and you can actually see that's written in a way that makes
It was handwritten by Steve Jobs.
Fart apps and flashlights,
yeah.
No flashlights either. We don't need them anymore because it's in the.
Yeah, we've got Control Center. Honestly, I mean, I think that some of those apps that are now being taken off the store, they had potential uses in that, you know, if you give them access to your email, you give them access to your contacts, they can screen through, you know, potential bad attachments or things like that. But ultimately, that's not necessarily something that a third-party app should be doing on iOS.
Can I ask you guys a question? Because you're the experts on the new Photos app, which will be out in 10.10.3, which will be out soon, right? We think? Seems like it's done. Soonish. As you said, there was another update yesterday, wasn't there, to the beta?
Yeah.
It used to be when I hooked up this is a stupid question, and it's completely my question, but maybe somebody else listening's had the same issue. When I hooked up the iPhone to the computer and copied my photos off, iPhotos would say, okay, would you like to delete those photos from your phone? And I would say yes, because I don't want thousands of photos on my phone jamming up the works. I've already copied them to the computer. Photos doesn't seem to ask that. Is there any way to get rid of these old photos?
That's an old way of thinking, Leo. The new way of thinking is that Apple will nearline manage it for you. So those photos aren't really on your phone anymore anyway. It's just the most popular and recently accessed ones, and the rest are in the magical
cloud. What do you mean they're not on my phone anyway? I took them.
Yeah, but
you did.
If you're using... Sorry, go ahead, Ren.
Yeah, if you're using iCloud Photo Library, basically what will happen, and you have optimized storage turned on, what will happen is a certain percentage of those photos that you took will remain in full quality on your phone, and then everything after, say, like 200 photos will go automatically up to the cloud, and all you'll see is a tiny little thumbnail that if you want to see it, you just tap on it and then it pulls it down from the cloud. Or if you want it to make sure that it stays on your device, you tap the the favorite heart and that it permanently stays on your device. But otherwise, yeah, Apple is really trying to get people away from the idea of we want you to delete photos once you've taken them. It should be that, in theory, the magical software that is on your device manages this all for you, so you never have to worry about, oh, I'm losing space. Oh, I have too little space. Oh, I've taken too many photos and nothing's backed up. Everything should be automatically backed up. Everything,
No, this is good because I do know many, many people who just leave everything on their iPhone, and then they complain, oh, my God, my iPhone's full.
Well, think of it this way, Leo. If you deleted the photos, it would just sync them back anyway, so it's saving you the pain of having to...
All right, but, okay, so let me show people. If you go into Settings, Photos and Camera, you need to have iCloud Photo Library, and then, by the way, it still says Beta, turned on, and Optimize Phone Storage checked. And then it will only keep the last few hundred. It'll put little optimized thumbnails. It'll do all the things you want. What if you don't have those checked and set?
Well, you're probably not using. I mean, if you're using that and not using the Photos beta, that'd be an odd combination.
But let's say when this comes out, is this going to? Will there be a way in Photos to delete?
Yeah. Oh, so you can still delete
can?
your images, but
How?
but I mean, you're talking about deleting them. Period.
I
You're
want to
saying,
delete them from the phone because they're taking up a lot of space, and I don't want to use iCloud Photo Library Beta. How do I do that?
So if you're going to do that and you're going to have iCloud Photo Library turned off, which is totally that is an option.
Yeah.
When you connect your phone to the Photos app, as long as you have both if you have iCloud Photo Library turned off in both places, it should treat your phone just like a regular old camera.
So it will offer me the option to delete.
It should, in theory. Yeah, I haven't personally tested it, but I suspect that's the way it will work. And then worst case, you can always use image capture, and image capture allows you to delete things. No problem.
Image capture. So image capture continues to have those capabilities.
Correct.
Good.
Yeah, and iPhoto and Aperture.
Yeah, but iPhoto is going to go away.
Yeah.
As is Aperture.
Hopefully.
So I'm preparing
if
for.
you've already downloaded it.
Yeah, I'm preparing for the new Photos future, and I was just surprised because in past I've copied it off, and iPhoto said, "Now, do you want to delete them?" And I never saw that. And
it's a mental leap because it really would be deleting those photos just to have them sync back again, because the state of the phone is no longer, those are just the photos you took. Those are all, they really want a world where Photos is an OS level service and it's all your photos and all your devices on demand. That's not congruous with deleting them off your phone.
I love our chat room. Scooter X is saying, well, in the new iOS 8.3b today, it no longer says iCloud Photo Library Beta, but I might point out, Scooter X, the whole freaking thing is beta. So
you're beta.
You're beta. It's all beta. So, of course, it doesn't have to say beta there. We'll see when 8.3 comes out if it stops saying beta. Apple has just seeded the second public build of iOS 8.3 beta, fourth beta for iOS beta.
Yeah, word beta's gone.
In case you want. And so maybe I'm dumb. Is there a button in the phone that says delete these photos?
If you delete them on the phone, like, again, if you're living in the iCloud photo library world, there's no phone anymore. All your photos are everywhere. So if you delete them, you're deleting them from everywhere. Otherwise, the phone is going to manage
But I know I can delete them one by one. I can click on the photo and delete it. But, but if I have 3,000 photos, which I did, that was kind of onerous.
But that's delete. If you're using iCloud Photo Library, you're not deleting them from your phone. You're deleting them from iCloud Photo
everywhere,
Library.
Which is okay in this case.
Yeah, it's easier to do in Photos in Mac. You can just select huge amounts of stuff and delete them.
Yeah, on the Mac. All right.
Or you can pick whole moments. I think you can still go to moments or collections and choose them. And
I just think about people who have like a 16 gig iPhone or a 32 gig
That's
iPhone.
the beauty of iCloud. I mean, that's supposedly the beauty of iCloud Photo Library.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the way that it optimizes storage, there's no specific amount that it takes away. It is entirely dynamically based on how big of a phone you have. So if you have 16 gigabytes, for example, and 8 gigabytes of that is taken up by music, it'll only sync a small amount of photos. But if you have more space available, it'll dump a few more photos, and it automatically prioritizes based on whatever photos you've been looking at most recently or editing most recently, which I think is really cool.
That's great. And for a lot of people who are just living an unexamined life, that's great because then it just happens and you don't know about it and you're happy. But there are people, foolishly, like me, who say, but I want to delete. Where's the button to delete them all? And it's a little frustrating and it makes me feel stupid because I'm going, isn't there a select all? How do I?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can delete all of the photos on your phone if you want to turn off iCloud Photo Library.
Yeah,
and that
one
way you don't
by
have to
one.
worry about that second. Yeah, no.
There's a select all?
Well, okay, so there's a section in Moments. So if you go to the Photos app and you go to Photos Collections.
Yeah, I'm in Moments. You have to go to Collections and Moments.
I believe,
and you press Select.
You can,
and then you can one by one.
Well, you see at the top of that, there's this thing that says Select.
Yes.
The other Select.
Where it says it turns from
the other
so
Select.
You press Select.
There's
press
one
the
Select.
Big select.
Select.
And then there's little selects under each moment. You see that?
Yeah, I have to go like this.
No,
you can go moment by moment.
Yeah.
So if I go moment by, well, I still have to, if you have a lot of moments, that's still something, but it's better than nothing. Okay. So there's no select all, but you can select by moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that means I only have to go back 365 days 365 selects. Okay.
And then worst case scenario, you just plug your phone into your computer and use image capture and delete it all.
Yeah. That's probably what I'll end up doing.
Turn off the sync so it doesn't all sync.
I'm already getting, and then it will come back. So sometimes JustWorks doesn't, for people who are paying attention.
That's the problem with cloud services. If you do them wrong, it's like having pantry moths in your house, where you feel like you can get rid of all of them, but at some point they're back and you don't know how they got back.
Pantry moths. Launcher is back. The banned iOS widget that let you launch other apps is back.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. I think it would behoove Apple to make extensions for Control Center and then allow you to, like, developers to make apps that go into Control Center, because Control Center feels to me like where I want to go to launch apps, and Notification Center feels like where I want to go for information.
I just, I'd like to let users decide that, because I do swipe down to get a look at to get a look at an overview sort of things. In any event, there needs to be a place to put favorite apps, because the current app launcher is just terrible. It's just
it's not the greatest.
It is exactly like what the Newton message pad had in the late 1990s, and I think we can do a little bit better than that. Call me a crazy dreamer with too much faith in Apple, but I think they can surpass what happened 20 years ago.
Survey says 85% of iPhone 6 owners in the U.S. have never tried Apple Pay.
I was just looking at that. I'm a little...
It's from payments.com.
I don't know. There's no context for it. Like, how does that relate to other service? Like, maybe they haven't tried Amex. I don't know.
I should point out that this was not exactly a scientific survey. It was a survey of 1,188 participants of the payments.com Innovation Project 2015 Mobile Payments Conference.
Yeah.
But now, you would expect those people would be
like high adopters,
all trying it. 9% said they'd played around with Apple Pay. I'm in that.
Do they all work for currency? I mean, if they all work for currency.
That's a question, though. It's like, who's attending? I was trying to Google payments.com because I don't know much about them.
Right.
But if the folks attending the Innovation Project 2015 Mobile Payments Conference, if 75% of them have Android, and the people surveyed were let's say 85% of the 150 people who have iPhones at the conference, like that might be a little bit different.
Here's why this is. I agree. This is a useless number because of the way it was performed. But it's not a non-believable number to me, because I am an iPhone user who has set up 3 or 4 credit cards in Apple Pay and have never used it. Just because, even when I'm at Whole Foods where I could use it, it's like, whatever. I know how this works. I don't want to mess with it.
Also, I don't like the nature of that headline, where it really wants to paint Apple Pay as a failure because of low adoption. When really there are going to be so many factors, like where do you shop, and does the place where you shop happen to take Apple Pay? And are you just simply wired up to simply say, I know I've got 2 objects in my pocket, one is a phone, one is a wallet. I'm going to suppress the natural instinct to pay with my wallet and now take my phone. Right. I am one of those nuts who uses Google Wallet all the time, because I just like it. I like the security, and also, I will admit it, I like the fun of paying for something with my phone. But it's really going to take a number of years for people simply to change their habits. And it's going to take a device like Apple Watch, I think, to get people really on board with this idea that here's a more convenient way of paying for things.
And I should say, I also have had Google Wallet and Touch to Pay with Google Wallet for a long time, and never used that either.
I use NFC constantly.
I'm on that exact same page. My Nexus 5 had both wireless charging and the ability to pay for things with NFC, and I used neither of those things over the past almost 2 years, until just a couple of months ago, when I realized, oh, that's right, I can charge this more easily. Oh, that's right, I can use with all this Apple Pay news. I have always been able to do that. I wonder how well that works. Again, it's such like we were talking about earlier with the Apple Watch. So much of the problem is not engineering. It's just educating people, and here's something that is possible, and here's why you want to break a 10-year-old habit and start a new, much better habit.
I would say, just judging from what I'm seeing in the chat room, most of the people in the chat room who have the capability have used Apple Pay. But again, that's a self-selected group. Gardner in the chat room said, it's in a survey taken at WWDC, Google was found not to have sold a single phone.
Yeah.
It's
As someone who doesn't have Apple Pay yet, but we've had contactless payment for years here. It's just ubiquitous. Everybody goes in whenever they can, which is most of the time. I tap to pay all the time. I can't remember the last time. Once in a while, I have to put the pin and chip in because they've dropped the machine and the NFC is not working anymore. But I'd say 90% of the time, I tap the gas tank. I tap the rest at the fast food place. I tap at the coffee shop. I tap at the rest. I mean, it's all I do.
I suspect
I get actually upset. There's one of the Panera closest to me where I do like a lot of my field writing. They've got 4 terminals, of which one does not have contactless payments. And whenever they say next, please, it's always the clerk with the I'm standing there with my phone in my hand, ready to. Oh God damn it! I got to get my wallet out and find. Do I actually have money with me? It's like,
see, I'm actually curious to see if it's going to be as reliable as the card, because the last time I was at, I forget, I was at our equivalent of Chipotle here, and the guy in front of me was trying to get his phone to pay, and he kept saying, "Oh, hold on a second. Oh, hold on a second." And I just walked up, hit my card, and left, because old analog card always works. Doesn't need an interface. Doesn't need any input. So it'd be interesting for me to see just how different it is when it's on the phone.
Patrick Delahanty in our studio here says Panera and Petaluma only has NFC on half the registers, and it's never the half that are open.
That's sickening.
It's always the truth.
All or nothing.
This happens in Cambridge too. It's so annoying. So annoying.
It's not acceptable, people. You have to raise the bar of your NFC deployment.
My suspicion is that there is this little hump to get over, which I have not gotten over, and that once the dam breaks, you just do it all the time. It's like, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to look for it. But there is some reluctance in me, maybe because it's a new way of paying, and I'm very comfortable and familiar with swiping.
One-time credit card.
Think about how long. Yeah, think about how long credit cards really took to adopt across the nation.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's a failure. I just think that there's a little resistance to get over, but I'm sure once you get over it.
That's absolutely true. Another interesting data point for me is Apple Pay has these payments have never been more popular now that Apple Pay is out. Apple Pay has been out for almost half a year now, and I can't tell you how many times I will use contactless payments, and I'm the very first customer they've ever had on this grease-soaked payment pad that has NFC happens to be on it. That, oh my God, how'd that happen? The register just told me you paid. How'd that happen? And I'm like, I used the thing that your register has been able to do for the past year.
That's part of the reason I don't do it, is I don't want to get in a conversation about what did you just do. I'm worried about the clerk not knowing what I did, right? And I don't want to I just want to say,
Are you stealing money?
Yeah, that is actually part of the resistance.
It's the opposite. It's kind of like how it was hard when I had the iPad the first month it was released to I almost don't want to use it in public because I actually have work to do. I don't want to demonstrate the iPad to people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll be in line at this place. How did you do that? Oh, I use phone. Oh my God, will my phone do that? What kind of phone do you have?
And the
Galaxy
Ihnatko,
S4.
technology
You can do that. You
evangelist.
just need to Google all that.
Yeah, it'll do it. It'll do it. Pwn to Own, which is an annual Vancouver-based event at CanSec West, the security conference. Every year, it happened last week. Every year, what they do is they set out computers with the latest browsers, the latest operating system patches, and so forth. And teams of white hat hackers, I think they're white hats, are given the opportunity to hack them. If they do, they get a cash prize, and they get to keep the laptop. On March 19th, the second day of the Pwn to Own conference, a significant, I'm looking at one article that says I think it was $255,000 in prizes were awarded because Safari was hacked, Firefox was hacked, Microsoft's Internet Explorer was hacked, Chrome was hacked, Adobe Flash was hacked, Adobe Reader was hacked. One guy who wasn't even on a team got the lion's share of this at Pwn to Own.
They're bounty hat hackers.
Yeah, what do you call them? Because in some ways I don't like this, because what happens is these guys are looking all year for exploits, and when they find them, they keep them to themselves. And then because they want to make some money. So this guy, South Korean hacker Jung-Hoon Lee, made by himself, I think $255,000. He hacked IE Chrome and Safari. He got a couple of laptops.
That for a year's work.
But I feel now once it's over, they are required to reveal the exploits, so they'll be patched and won't work next year. He took out IE11 stable and beta versions of Google Chrome and Apple Safari. Got $225,000 in prize money. Not so bad. A total of $500,000, I think, was handed out. And just for those of you Mac users who say, "Well, we're safe," Safari absolutely was hacked. He found there were 2 bugs in Apple Safari that they were able to use. And by the way, it's not just like they find a bug. It's like they can use the bug to take over the machine. Enough said.
Security would be perfect if it didn't have to let humans in.
I do have to say that Lee did say Google Chrome was the hardest to hack. His Chrome exploit took over 2,000 lines of code. Wow. And he got into Safari using a UAF vulnerability in an uninitialized stack pointer. So there. And then he jumped out of the sandbox to execute a program in OS X. Program was non-malicious, but of course it could have been. All right, let's take a break. Come back. Your picks. Oh, wait a minute. One more story. Remember that Apple bought Beats? I think you probably do remember that. HP continued to make Beats computers, Beats-based audio computers, because they had a deal. That deal has ended. Beats has now exited the HP arena, and HP is going to team with B&O, Bang & Olufsen.
They declined to renew the deal.
Apple did?
I don't know. I'm just saying. Someone declined to renew that deal.
Not really a surprise. The B&O Play label will be on Pavilion PCs, the Spectre, Omen, Envy. You know, I've never noticed it makes any difference at all. It seems to me just like a label. But there you go. Let us take a break. Come back with your picks of the week, lady and gentlemen. But first, a word from LegalZoom.com. Not a law firm. Better in a way. If you're thinking about starting a business, now would be a great time because it's National Start Your Business Month at LegalZoom.com. Makes it easier than ever to start building your future. LegalZoom provides the support you need. We did the LLC through LegalZoom 10 years ago. LegalZoom's been helping people for more than 10 years, more than 1 million business owners. Get the paperwork done, get the trademarks, the patents. And now if you need advice for your business, no problem. Even though LegalZoom is not a law firm, they have built a network of trusted attorneys to provide the guidance you need for your specific situation. And to celebrate National Start Your Business Month, LegalZoom is offering an attorney consultation for only $50. So, for instance, you could go to LegalZoom.com, start the process to create an LLC, which you should do, by the way. If you're starting a business, you should not just be a plain old company because then the liability issue is significant. And you, as I did, come to the part in the form where you say, oh, what state? And I was trying to decide between Delaware and California. And I'd heard different things. It would have been great to have a $50 consultation with an attorney and say, which state? He could have told me the pros and cons in each. If you're unsure about the best way to start, or if you've already run a business and you need some advice, this offer is for you. Get legal advice for your business. No further obligation, all at a one-time low cost of $50. Go to LegalZoom today to find out more. Attorney consultations are provided by independent attorneys available in most states. Get the legal help you need for your business at LegalZoom.com and enter the offer code MBW in the referral box. You'll save even more. MBW, LegalZoom.com. Try it today. That's a good deal. I don't know any attorney that will even answer the phone for $50. Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week, my friend.
My pick of the week are a couple of really cheap but very good cases, both of them made by Ihnatko, another one of those names that they tend to slap onto that tends to land on a variety of different things. I recommended a SSD drive case a while back. As I said last week, I bought a new iPad Mini. I don't like flip cases or keyboard cases. What I like are sleeves. And so I bought this one chiefly because I like things that are inexpensive and cool and clever, and this is all three. So this is technically it's a sleeve case. It's felt, so it's nice and warm and cuddly. It would have been, you could put it on your hands to prevent frostbite during the winter that we had. But when you need to use your thing, you pull it out like this. But it has this really cool, clever little thing where you can just flatten this end of it, there's a magnet that holds the end of the strap like that, and then you get a very, very simple little stand that you can use for reading or doing whatever. It's such a easy thing for them to have to add to this very, very simple sleeve, and yet it just makes it perfect for, I'm having a burrito and I just want this tilting up to read. And it also keeps it useful for the things I use tablets for. I don't like those flip over cases or those hard cases because I often wind up putting these things into keyboard docks, like little portable keyboards that have a little stand. And sometimes that thick case will prevent it from going to the little slot. That one's just $12 on Amazon. This other one, which I bought only because it was next door to it, and I've been sort of looking for a simple protective padded sleeve for my 13-inch MacBook. Also made out of warm felt. If you leave this out, your kitty is probably going to climb inside it because it's just so warm and snuggly inside there. But it is a $16 sleeve. Couldn't be simpler, but it's slim. It doesn't add extra bulk to the thing. And meanwhile, for a cheap $17 sleeve, it is nonetheless fully lined. And the lining allows it to do cool things like, well, what if we were to put in an extra little pack right here so that people can still put their like mini tablets inside there, and we'll put little tabs back here so people can carry their phone someplace. And it's not here with me to show off, but it also comes with a identically nicely tailored little elastic bag that you can put you can see in that picture there, you can put your charger in. It was such a nice little bag that I went to New York and I went to the opera. I needed to take my little binoculars, so I just used that as a mini binoculars case. So you get a lot of value for $18. For $16. Very, very happy with both of them. So much so that I probably won't be looking for other ones for either one of these.
Nice. Ihnatko. You must have a pipeline to the Ihnatko factory.
It's kind of fun when you find yourself shopping and you say, oh, wow, that looks like exactly what I want. And you realize that, oh, that's from the same company from which I've bought 3 or 4 different things. That means that they're probably doing things that are very much aligned with my own personal interests.
It's a kind of generic name. And the only reason I remember it is because it's so close to the name of the company in Office Space, which was Ihnatko. Right? That's the only reason I remember.
I don't know about that. It's quality products at low prices.
Serenity.
There are no staplers involved.
No. You have my stapler. You ready, Caldwell? Hey, you're next.
My pick of the week is carrot weather.
What?
I have Federico Viticci to blame entirely for that. Carrot weather.
Have you been growing carrots?
Yes, I have not been growing carrots, but I have been growing snarky AI, which is what carrot weather is.
Like it.
It's a weather app that talks to you like you're a little bit of a jerk. So this one, let's see, and it has special forecasts too. So not only forecasts your own weather, but also has secret locations like the Lars homestead on Tatooine that says, "May the Force be with you." Unless you like the prequels, then you can go jump off a bridge. It's basically a snarky little UI or AI that just that talks to you while it's giving away information about the weather, and it has the same kind of like live real-time forecasts that Dark Sky offers.
Neat.
Which I tried it out based on Viticci's glowing review, and I'm like, you know what, this is actually really fun. And now it's temporarily replaced Dark Sky in my first home screen. I don't know if it'll stay there, but for now I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, see, I have Dark Sky. So what's it? Why are these better than the Apple Weather app?
Well, for one thing, Dark Sky in specific I like better because you get real-time feedback on whether or not it's about to rain or how heavy the rain currently is, rather than just an overview of like your barometric pressure.
Mine says next hour, no precipitation, and the nearest precipitation is 13 miles to the north, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's useful.
So I think that kind of stuff is really interesting and very helpful. And I like being able to see temperature changes and the 7-day forecast. Apple's weather app is perfectly perfunctory. It's just kind of boring.
Right. But carrot weather is similar to this, but snarky.
Yeah. I like an app that's willing to talk back to me a little bit.
I might like you. I might temporarily put Dark Sky in a folder somewhere and try Carrot app. Thank you.
Like Steve Jobs, you enjoy having people in your organization that are willing to challenge you.
Yes. All right. If you say so, I'll try it. Mr. Rene Ritchie, your pick of the week.
Yeah, I just want to second Serenity's pick first. I mean, Brian Mueller, who does all the Carrot apps, and there's like Carrot To Do and Carrot Fit and Carrot Hunger. They're all snarky and wonderful. So you might not want to use them every day, but every once in a while you just need that hit, that reality check to bring you back.
So here's the Carrot to Do talking task list. That's $2.99. Yeah. Carrot Tough Love Pack, $7. You can add even more snark. There's Carrot Weather. That's $3. Carrot Alarm.
People abuse you.
Yeah. Carrot Fit. See, this is what I need. The 7-minute workout, but with some snark.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
It's just refreshing. I mean, a lot of stuff is bland or like Serenity said, perfunctory, and he's got some attitude. And
Carrot
that kind of stuff.
Hunger, a talking calorie counter. And that one's free if you want to get an idea of what Carrot
you want to sample your carrot.
What Carrot can do for you.
I like the one that it's showing me right now.
What's it say?
Good. Oh, now is the winter of our disco tent.
Okay, I'm
There's
downloading it.
Clever.
Right there on that.
Yeah.
I'm down. What do I get in the Tough Love bundle? What is? Oh, I see. That's the 3 of them together.
Yeah.
Oh, I should probably do that.
Same
Oh, it doesn't
thing.
include weather. Darn it.
You're a dirty little piggy. Dirty little piggy should be outside so the rain will wash them out, dirty little piggy.
Yes, I'm a dirty little piggy. I am. I'm sorry, Rene. Go
In-app
ahead.
purchase.
No,
Give
no
me
worries.
$5 more right now.
My actual pick of the week is something I sadly can't talk very much about because it's embargoed until tomorrow morning.
You know,
but
you
I didn't-
stole this. I knew you were going to do this.
We argued about it last week, and I figured if I put it in there really quickly, I'd get away with it.
Dang you.
So again, I can't tell you anything about it except that I've been using it through the beta period, and I like it a lot. Fantastical 2 is what I'm talking about. Fantastical 1 has been my go-to calendar on iOS and Mac since it came out. Fantastical 2 is a reimagining of what it means to be fantastical, similar to what Fantastical 2 was on iOS, just in the context of the Mac. It comes out tomorrow. It's by Flexibits. And it's really good. So as sometime tomorrow, it'll magically appear on the App Store, and a bunch of news outlets will write about it and tell you all about it. But I'll just say that if you care at all about getting stuff into a calendar fast and getting it out of a calendar fast, you're going to really want to check out Fantastical. It's a great team and it's a great app.
I don't know anything about it.
I know. I'm trying to be really careful here, Leo.
Well, I was kind of mad because we got to talk to Simmons because.
He's got to make it Tuesday, right?
Tuesday would be better. Just saying.
I know.
You do it Wednesday, we're probably not going to mention it the following Tuesday. Just saying.
Yeah.
All
It's
you
a
app
risky
guys.
thing, yeah.
It's a risky thing. I got
Well, the
Carrot.
thing is, Leo, like for the App Store, Thursday is a sweet slot because that's when Apple does their features. So if they ask you to go on a Thursday, you're going to want to do that. But I kind of think that otherwise, if you can't get Apple, you should definitely target MacBreak.
Good to know. I got 2 picks. I'll do them quick because they're not that interesting. The first one is from Instagram, has a new app, a framing app, and where did I put it? Oh, here it is, Layout, which will take all your pictures. If you have any pictures on your phone, but of course I've deleted them all now, and make a interesting layout. It's actually really nice. It's very simple to use. You just select the pictures you want, and it will offer you some nice layouts. And then it will give you a chance to flip things around, which is kind of cool. And then it will give you a chance to save it and post it on Instagram, of course, because it's from Instagram, or Facebook, or use the share button. What's cool, and it's free. What's cool about this is, and I hope Instagram does more stuff. They did hyperlapse as well, and they're good developers. It's iOS only, but if they're good developers, I would like to see more stuff. This is very simple. Lots of people already have frame apps. You don't need another one, probably. But I thought I'd mention it. The other one, I know you guys, I know at least you, Rene, are a Sonos fan, and we were having the heck of a time in the house because it's the Sonos. We have several systems spread out quite a bit, and the system the farthest away from the Sonos bridge would constantly die. And what Sonos does, which is bad, now this really got bad when they added this new ability to not have a bridge, but to do it all via Wi-Fi. Yeah. Sonos has its own kind of mesh-style network that really works. The advantage Sonos has over any other solution is everything's in sync. I don't know how it does it. So if you turn on all the speakers into party mode, everything sounds the same. You don't get weird delays and echoes throughout the house. It's fabulous. Lots of other good reasons to like Sonos. They came out with a solution that has fixed my problem, and I wanted to tell people who, if you're having trouble with Sonos speakers losing track of where they belong or suddenly becoming Wi-Fi, and the symptom of that is you suddenly you don't have a system, or part of the system disappears. This is a great solution, and Sonos should have done this ages ago. This is a Wi-Fi, basically a Wi-Fi access spot called the Sonos Boost. It's not very expensive. I think it's $100. And what it does is it has 3 antennas. It's like a massive, massive Wi-Fi adapter. You plug this into your router via Ethernet, then everything else can be unplugged. That's how Sonos generally works. And this really solved our problem. So if you've had problems with Sonos, or it's because you have it spread out, or there's internet getting in the way, which is another problem because we have a lot of Wi-Fi going around, the Boost is well worth it. Fixed our problem. Now, we had the similar problems here in the studio, and it did not solve our problem here. But I think I think we have a different issue with interference. If your issue is that your stuff is spread out a lot, the Boost really fixed it. And I put it basically in the same location that the Sonos Connect was, so it's demonstrably better at creating the network than the Sonos Connect is. We're out of time, but we are not out of wonderful people. I want to thank Serenity Caldwell from imore.com for being here. Always a pleasure. Is the snow melting? Is it melting? Is spring coming ever?
Supposedly it's going to be in the 50s next week, this week. Fingers crossed.
I'm hoping for you.
Maybe.
If not,
I still believe in spring.
you can always come out here.
I know.
It'll be 80 degrees this weekend, just saying. It's actually beautiful today. It's a gorgeous day, isn't it? Yeah.
If only you're not, slowly sinking into drought.
Oh, that. Oh, there won't be any water. No. You don't need water.
I like my showers.
No. You don't want to come here then. This is the place where you shower with a friend to save water. There are lots of other bumper stickers, but I won't continue. Mr. Rene Ritchie, imore.com. Nice to have you. Montreal is it patio weather?
So, Leo, it went up to 1 degree Celsius, and I opened my window just because I wanted some fresh air. I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and it was minus 25 with wind chill. My iPhone felt like it had liquid nitrogen poured on it. There was frozen condensation on my table, and I'm not leaving my house again till June.
I saw your post. That's why I brought it up. I felt so bad for you. Jeez Louise. Great to have you, Rene, always. Rene does a great podcast. Actually, Serenity also does great podcasts. The Incomparable. Rene's Debug is a must-listen for anybody who's a Mac fan. All of that you'll find at imore.com. And you'll find Serenity's podcast at theincomparable. Is it .net?
The Incomparable, I believe, .com is ours. Yep, the Incomparable.
Nobody types net or com anymore. They just type into the Google The Incomparable and click the link.
Show me the Incomparable, yes.
That's all you need. And Ihnatko's at the Chicago Sun-Times. Always a thrill. You're the best. Best sideburns in technology. Thank you for being here.
Best at technology, I'd have to argue with that. Sideburns and technology. Now that Asimov is very much not with us anymore, I could be talked out of that, but it's not ridiculous.
You know who gave you a run for your money recently? Joaquin Phoenix, the last movie he did, what was it called? It's the one based on the Pynchon novel.
Yeah.
He plays a 1970s detective, stoner detective.
He was rocking it. Actually, now that I think of it, Burt Rutan has nice sideburns, and also as the CEO of Scaled Composites, I probably have to say that the makers of low altitude spacecraft, I have to say, probably more tech savvy than I. But.
I don't. Nobody's more tech savvy than you. The movie was Inherent Vice, yes. And he plays a character named Larry Doc Sportello, and has sideburns, much like yours.
I don't want to brag, but if your iPhone is having problems, I think I could probably fix it before he can.
Hey, thanks for being here, you guys. Thank you all for watching the show. We do it every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC, on live.twit.tv. But if you can't watch live, on-demand audio and video, always available after the fact, twit.tv/MBW. But better than that, subscribe. Use a Overcast or some podcast app or iTunes, whatever you need. Make sure you get every episode. You don't want to miss one, and we appreciate it when you subscribe. That way we know you'll be here each and every Tuesday for MacBreak Weekly. Thanks. Now get back to work, because break time is over.